Hello there, folks. We're going to have a look at what Brendan Clarke-Smith, Conservative MP for Bassetlaw and former teacher, but better known for being fed cold baked beans by fellow goon Lee Anderson on GB News when they both should have been at work doing the job the taxpayer pays them to do, has been up to on Twitter. He is behaving in a way completely befitting of the class of 2019 Tory. On your screen now, you'll see a post from a Twitter user called Supertansky. You may be more familiar with her than I am. If I go onto her profile, it says political commentary, satire, activism, like the Tories, you'll hate me, sweary, dystopia warner, Labour voter. So, you're alright by me, love. Now, Supertansky posted this. She attended Glastonbury at the weekend as a performer, as an artist. And she just wanted to share a story of something that happened to her whilst at Glastonbury. She writes, "On a personal level, I'd like to say a huge thank you to the lovely man volunteering for the Samaritans near the pyramid stage. He noticed that I'd paused near their truck after Lizzo and asked if I was okay. I wasn't. It meant the world to me. The chat made such a difference. I love Glasto, but it's a battle of endurance for those with severe ADHD symptoms, but for no hope of help due to Tories decimating the NHS. I cried a lot, both from joy and being overwhelmed. If you're feeling lost, it can feel lonely in a huge crowd of happy people." He was very kind. Taking a few moments and letting it out gave me the energy to carry on. They're overwhelmed due to NHS cuts. Please support them if you can. I didn't catch his name, but had a little cry on my walk back, out of gratitude that people can be so wonderful. The same sentiments applied to the welfare tent folk, who looked after me when I fainted from the heat on the way to our Shangri-La set. There was so much kindness and compassion from festival goers and volunteers alike. After a grueling few years, it truly restored my faith in people. Twitter, if you can find this man, it'd be lovely to say a direct thank you. It might have seemed insignificant, but it's incredible how much a chat and letting it out, saying it all out loud, can really help. So that was a nice thing all round, really, because plenty of donations came the way of the Samaritans, thanks to Supertansky sharing that story. And you may well be wondering where Brendan Clarke-Smith comes into this tale. And that is a perfectly reasonable thought to be having. In days gone by, it may well have been the case that a Member of Parliament could have picked up on this story, shared it themselves, in order to get a few more donations flowing the way of the Samaritans. But that's not really Brendan Clarke-Smith's style now, is it? So he took the first part of Supertansky's story and tweeted the following. "Vile internet troll in personal issues shock. Cares little for the welfare of others, however, when spouting her foul-mouthed bile on Twitter. Excuse me for playing the world's smallest violin." So this escalated further with Supertansky replying, "Here we have a Tory MP mocking a person with poor mental health. It's not trolling to call a 'see you next Tuesday' a 'see you next Tuesday,' Brendan. I built my anti-Tory platforms after my friend took his own life due to Tory COVID negligence and NHS cuts. You're the reason people want to twat Tories." To which Brendan Clarke-Smith replied, "Why not try deleting your Twitter account? You'll be a lot less angry and feel a lot better about yourself." There are no words for this. It speaks for itself. This is the state of Tory elected representatives now. And bear in mind, this is a former teacher. Can you imagine a former teacher and now Member of Parliament conducting himself in this way? Believe it or not, Brendan Clarke-Smith is not finished here. The Daily Mirror picked up on this, and here is the Mirror posting an article that says, "Tory MP Brendan Clarke-Smith launches vile attack on woman thanking Samaritans for help." And they basically cover everything I've already said, but Brendan Clarke-Smith then responded to the Mirror, saying, "Interesting moralistic take from a newspaper that thinks challenging foul-mouthed internet trolls on their hypocrisy is worse than mocking people who have died." And then posted a photo of a quote from the Mirror over the submersible tragedy, which says, "You don't get an international rescue mission if you're a drowning boat migrant." And to be honest with you, I'm really struggling to work out how he has drawn that conclusion from that quote. It's bewildering. We've gone from the unpleasant and nasty to the unhinged here slightly, which isn't entirely surprising where this individual's concerned. But we go on further still. Ben Kentish of LBC writes, "I have no idea who the original tweeter is, or what they have or haven't tweeted previously, but this is never ever how you should respond to someone talking about their struggles with mental health, especially if you're an MP." To which Brendan Clarke-Smith responds, "You know full well the tweeter's track record, Ben. Quit the Mother Teresa routine." Just who is he appealing to? Brendan Clarke-Smith's next victim in this bizarre exchange was former Labour MP John Mann. Now, I have no love for John Mann, I can assure you, but this just seems like a completely arbitrary, unhinged, deranged attack. Brendan Clarke-Smith says, "Nice that our so-called independent advisor on anti-Semitism's first instinct is to share posts defending a foul-mouthed internet troll. Perhaps he can give his view on her tweet below, whilst my colleague was signing the Book of Commitment for Holocaust Memorial Day." And this is the tweet Brendan Clarke-Smith was referring to. And Supertansky writes, "Jonathan Gullis is a vacant, basic, insecure, Lynx Africa wearing shoezone with all the charm of a small-town gack pusher." Now, I think Brendan Clarke-Smith is trying to suggest in some way this tweet might be anti-Semitic, but of course it's not. Gullis is just signing the book, and she decided to make a joke out of it, which is her right as a member of the public, and it's absolutely our right to take the piss out of members of parliament, especially if they're useless, vacant, basic, insecure, Lynx Africa wearing, etc., etc., like Jonathan Gullis, and like Brendan Clarke-Smith. Why Brendan Clarke-Smith thinks John Mann should be holding a member of the public to account over something they've written is the most... It's just so dumb. It's so dumb it's barely worth comment. But this is how stupid Brendan Clarke-Smith is. You're not the equal of a member of public. You're an elected politician. Your standards are supposed to be higher. It's as if he doesn't realise he's a member of parliament. He just thinks he's just some guy. Loser Brendan from Bassetlaw. So he thinks he still is. No, sadly not, Brendan. You're a member of parliament now. You have been for almost 4 years. Hopefully, I pray to God, not much longer. We've got these thugs inside our governing party. Thugs. And they're mainly in the Red Wall areas. They're just awful. But now let's go over to the Samaritans page. And they say, "The language we use about mental health matters. It's important not to stigmatise people when they're reaching out for help. It adds barriers to other people who might be hesitant to open up. Our incredible festival team are in their busiest time right now, offering emotional support to hundreds of festival goers across the UK, including at Glastonbury. We're always touched to hear stories about the difference we make. Talking openly about mental health should be celebrated. It can take a lot to open up when you're struggling, and sharing your story can take even more courage. Let's keep building a community where no one feels ashamed or alone for struggling with mental health." But I think it's only fair we give the final word to Supertansky herself. And it's extremely pertinent. So let's have a listen.
There is nothing weak about talking about your mental health. In fact, your friends would rather hear you're having a hard time than go to your funeral. And as someone that had to stand outside during the pandemic, watching my friend lowered into the ground whilst those fuckers were partying, trust me on that. Having mental health issues is not a weakness. And I'll be fucked if an odious little cretin like Brendan Clarke-Smith will try and shame me or mock me for it. Register to vote. Get your voter ID. Get scumbags like that far away from the seat of power.
And please, guys, take her advice. Get everything you need in place to vote. People will have you think the next general election isn't important because Keir Starmer's Labour Party won't offer much of an alternative. I am sympathetic to certain elements of that argument. However, much more imperative in the interim is getting these appalling people like Brendan Clarke-Smith out of that building. Cheers for watching. Take care of yourselves. I'll catch you again soon.